Okay, the Sixers at home against the Clippers, and a little back and forth as we've seen with Joel Embiid and the Sixers fans at home. He got booed in introductions, but he's making himself count early on in this one, RJ.
Just keep being big. You're bigger, you're stronger than everyone else. You just have to do it for 48 minutes.
I love the smile. Second quarter, Sixers down 1. Simmons, the lob pass there, and Embiid finishes Seth.
Play to your strengths. Don't show people what you can't do. Show people what you are excellent at.
Game tied at 56, and he was excellent there. It's beautiful.
Every time he shoots a three, I'm mad. Every time he shoots, even when he makes it, it makes me more mad. That means there's more coming.
One less three for you.
That means there's more threes coming every time he makes one.
Right.
This I like.
This was fun. Okay, so remember, Embiid and Marcus Morris got into it a little earlier this year, and then now here they are once again having a little bit of back and forth.
Oh, well, look, this is why the Clippers brought in Morris. He's going to be the guy guarding Anthony Davis. He's going to be the tough guy for them. And look at this on the defensive end.
The last laugh by Joel Embiid. That block is unbelievable. The Sixers win it 110-103. Here's the question we really need answered, though.
Okay. I have no idea what
you have no idea. Okay, all right. But what is your reaction to what we're seeing from Embiid and this Jekyll and Hyde team, for lack of a better way to phrase it, with the Sixers?
I'm glad that he's having fun, right? Winning is fun. Winning is fun, and I'm glad that he's back in that space. But ultimately, when you look at what Joel Embiid needs to be every single day, and this is where you have greats that have criticized him, whether it's Shaquille O'Neal or Charles Barkley, they see it all there. They see the aggression. It's a matter of whether or not he decides to do it for 48 minutes every single night, and that's a level of greatness that is hard to achieve, like a Giannis.
Until he does that, they don't validate this home win.
No.
Because until he does that, until he realizes, all right, the best players play to their strengths. The best players go where they can dominate the game. We talked about Zion earlier. All right, attacking in the paint, playing to his strengths. Like Embiid, if he just decided to dominate the game, he could dominate the game in a low block.
Well, and if you're a Philly fan, you're watching this game and saying, why don't we see more of this from both Embiid and Simmons? But Simmons impressed you last night.
Simmons was unbelievable. 22 shot attempts, the most of the season. Because he drove it and got in the lane to score, all of a sudden he became better. These are winning plays. Back-to-back plays down the stretch. He takes Kawhi Leonard and he puts him right on his chest and contests. To me, offensively, defensively, winning plays.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
You're coming with a butt. I know you're coming with a butt.
But at the end of the day, to your point, if they don't do this on the road, yes, they have a little moment. Then they show up and play at home. They're the best home team in the NBA. That's not a surprise to anyone. What we need them to see is do this. You know what's going to happen? They're not very good against teams above 500 on the road. Do you know who they're going to play on the road? Playoff teams.
Yep.
When you go on the playoffs, every team is above 500, and where they're positioned now, they won't have home court against anybody in the second round.
If Ben Simmons is as aggressive as he was there and Embiid plays to his strengths, yes. The question is, that's the big if. You have to validate home wins with dynamic wins on the road. I'm not sure that's in their DNA.
Look, they're at the exact same pace as they were last year for wins. The only problem is everybody else has been playing better. Everyone else has improved. So that win spot that you're in isn't going to get it done like it did last year.
Hey, either way, it's going to be interesting.
$1 million to take care of his body. You think he's doing that for load management? No, he's doing that because he wants to have a stretch run in his career. He wants to play as long as possible. But you get these basketball players and these analysts in the NBA running around saying, oh, well, Kawhi's doing it. They should take that recipe. Well, no, LeBron will tell Coach Vogel when he's tired, when he wants to, and they will listen at that point in time.
Richard Jefferson is making faces behind you. Come over here, RJ. Hey. What do you make of that? He doesn't want to see any load management from LeBron.
Only thing is I don't really talk about like 4-3 defenses and 3-4 defenses. So I appreciate you and your high school acumen. I appreciate this. But at the end of the day, Bron is putting up too many minutes. The reason why I'm not talking about load management, I'm not talking about that.
Okay.
Is he playing too many minutes? One, their team is dog. They're terrible when he's out of the game,
yeah.
Right? He's terrible.
Not
when he's
very
out of the
good.
game. So then that forces him to play a little bit more minutes. So and that's the moment where you're like, maybe he should take a game out here, a game out there, just to give him some.
But he doesn't want to. Like
he wants to win a championship.
If I left you on the floor, you're gonna stay on the floor if you really want to go.
Yeah.
If you want to go, you're gonna stay on the floor.
Sometimes you look at it as safety blanket. If we take him out of the game, we're only up 6. If we take him out of the game, all of a sudden we're gonna be down 4.
RJ, let me ask you this.
Sure.
Is he doing this in part because he wants to win the MVP?
There's two things that he is chasing. He's chasing Kareem and he's chasing an MVP. I think as this gets further along, he is a very realistic human. As he gets further along and realizes that, hey, Giannis is kind of, running away with the award, with the MVP, I could see him slowly starting to dial himself back. Because they only need to be 1 or 2.
See,
they only need to be 1 or 2.
You trying to make you sound selfish. I don't think that's the case. You trying to make you sound selfish.
Listen, he's going to have home court, 1 or 2, right? So even if the Clippers overtake them at the end of the season and they have the 1 seed,
how about
they're
you
staying
get
at
chemistry
home.
with your teammates?
They have chemistry. They've been playing.
Nah, man, they ain't had no chemistry, not like we need.
It's important to point out.
The Lakers, I'm from LA, man. Stop.
It is important to point out, we keep talking about the Lakers and Clippers as though they're just going to glide to the 1 and 2 seeds. Denver is only 3 games behind.
Denver ain't real.
Denver ain't real.
Not real.
Dallas ain't real.
Not real.
Portland ain't real. Utah ain't real.
Nope. Are they regular season real?
They're very good. They're very good teams.
My point is, if they're regular season real, then they could finish in the 2 seed.
It doesn't matter.
It don't matter.
It doesn't matter if they finish in the
Lakers can finish in the 8th seed and still be straight.
Okay,
there
fair
we
enough.
go.
Then if that doesn't matter, then that's all well and good. Just give me the damn mic. I think we'll bring that one back. Laura, what's next?
Yeah, let's please bring it back. Okay, listen, just under a month until Selection Sunday in college basketball. Seth Greenberg here to give us his Final Four. You may be sitting there thinking, I'm going to have to pull this paper out and fill out my bracket. So who should we be looking at as the Final Four team, Seth?
Well, let's start with Gonzaga. Gonzaga, the most efficient offense in the country. And I'll tell you what, they got 3 front court guys. They dropped 60 the other day against St. Mary's. They got wins against at Arizona, RJ, Oregon, North Carolina. All right, you're talking about a team with great length, extremely skilled. Corey Kispert can flat out knock down a 3. They defend you on the perimeter. Let me tell you something. Arizona could have beat you. Arizona could have beat a bad UCLA team. And then you got Seton Hall, Miles Powell, logo range, deep range, can beat you off the bounce. And not only can they make shots, but I'll tell you, this is an elite defensive team. They pressure you, they can turn you over, they protect the rim. Miles Powell's ability, and then they got McKnight, Quincy McKnight. Racks it, defends, they get out in transition, they change defenses. That's Final Four good. Seton Hall, and then Kansas. Kansas got an elite point guard, Devin Dotson. Explosive in transition, can get downhill, pushes the ball in transition. And then up front, they got the immovable object, Udoka Azubuike. You play through him, you throw it to him, he's going to finish. This is a team that plays not good defense, great defense. They turn you over, they get in transition, and more importantly, that big fella right there, you play through him, you get a double team, he kicks it out, they knock down a 3. And then this Louisville team, Jordan Warren. He could be player of the year. 6'7", rebounds the ball, knocks down 3s. Obviously a tough matchup, but the addition of David Johnson, all right, as a freshman at 6'6" point guard, he solidified the point guard position. They've got 2 front court players. One, Malik Williams, is an elite defender. Enoch can score it around the basket. Those 4 teams very easily can make it to the Final Four.
Just to recap, you had Gonzaga, Seton Hall, Kansas, and Louisville in your Final Four. Noticeably absent is Duke. And when asked about the ACC's underwhelming place in college basketball last week, Coach K had this to say about the state of the sport and the lack of leadership at the NCAA panel. He said, quote, "Do you see anybody coming out from the NCAA saying what our future is? What's our plan? And by the way, who would say that? Collegiate NCAA football runs it big time. We don't do it. We don't do it. It's sad."
I find this fascinating, and those comments came right around the time of the Super Bowl, and so we didn't really have time to dive into it. But there was a time when college basketball was my favorite sport, and obviously there have been any number of changes to it. Players not staying as long has changed the dynamic. I don't know if it is sort of a Zion hangover effect, but it certainly feels like there has been less conversation around the sport this year than almost any that I can remember. And it begs the question, and Coach K is sort of articulating it, do we have a real problem, almost an existential problem, if you will, in college basketball right now?
Well, first of all, this season has been void of a dominant player, right, that defines the sport. So all of a sudden it is a Zion hangover. But here's the problem with our sport, college basketball. We don't have a voice. We have a seat at the table with the NCAA, but we don't have a voice.
What does that mean? I saw that in your notes. What does it mean?
The National Association of Basketball Coaches, all right, has a leader. All right, he sits at the table when NCAA rules are made and discussed, but he doesn't have a voice. He doesn't use his voice. We need someone that is going to fight for college basketball.
For what?
And here's what we need to fight for. We
need
need to shrink college basketball. You can't legislate for 353 schools because they all have different missions. They all have different agendas.
College basketball is
Duke doesn't have the same agenda
they're lazy
as Princeton.
And they're old. College basketball is lazy in their own. Let me say this. They've always had to adjust college football to like, okay, how are we going to determine a Final Four, BCS? They've always been trying to figure out the best way to bring everybody in. Well, the NCAA's always had the tournament. You had conference tournaments, and then you had the NCAA tournament. So then they stepped back and was like, our job is done. The NCAA tournament is going to take care. It's going to generate the billions of dollars we need.
Yes.
Every year it's the most popular gambling thing, most watched sporting event on television. So they're like, our job is done. And that's where they set back. Then what did they do? They joined with the NBA, said players had to come for 1 year. Because they're like,
they didn't join with the NBA. That was an NBA rule.
That was an NBA rule, but it was together with the NCAA. We can say
that was your Players Association.
I understand that, but they wanted players, older players wanted money. Point being is this, Greeny, and then I'll stop. What they want to do is they wanted to get players there, and then it started to backfire on them, and you've seen the interest in college basketball slowly drop ever since that rule got in place. That's why they're looking at changing.
Last year was one of the most watched years in the history of college basketball, so it hasn't declined.
It was one guy. It was 1 year.
But this year, and you know what? He's doing the same thing in the NBA, by the way.
Yes, because he was one player.
The same issues in the NBA. Here's the big thing. You got to understand. You can't legislate and make rules for 353 schools.
Agreed.
They do not have enough in common. There's not a commonality. What college basketball needs to do is separate themselves. If you want to be at the highest level of Division I, all right, you've got to fill this criteria. And now all of a sudden you have 150 schools. Then you legislate for those
that will destroy the NCAA tournament.
Well, what would it be? So just to be clear, college football has the Power Five. They are clearly delineated in some ways from everybody else. College basketball has more teams than that. And to Richard's point, one of the things that makes the NCAA tournament so great are these Cinderellas.
These other schools can join in that Power Five concept, like a Gonzaga or the Big East or other schools, but there's going to be a certain criteria that you need to fulfill to get into that club. And then all of a sudden you can make rules that basically have some commonality within the group. It's not just name, image, and likeness. You can create a scenario where you have an agenda that those people that fit the 150 schools as opposed to 353 schools, which is basically impossible.
It feels like somebody like Coach K at least paying attention to it and making